We're joined in the studio by consumer rights expert Helen and a pothole campaigner, Mark Morell, who's in Northamptonshire. We begin with you, Mark. Have you ever known it this bad?
No, I've been inundated for the last 4 weeks. It's gone to another level. I've always warned about this situation, and since becoming sort of Mr. Pothole some 10 years ago, it's unprecedented.
And what is it? Is it a combination of lockdown, perhaps maintenance slipped slightly, perhaps local authority budgets are more squeezed than ever?
No, it's decades of underinvestment by successive governments in our road network. They don't value them. They're the economic blood supply of the UK. The backlog has got worse by fourfold since the year 2000. And yet they're getting more and more revenue from users, road users, from fuel duty, VAT, and all the VAT that we pay on parts and even repairs, because part of that element goes back to government, doesn't it?
And the problem is, and we will talk about cyclists as well, Helen, but motorists suffer because they're having to pay for repairs or rely on their insurance companies. Well, that then potentially pushes up premiums for everyone if they're constantly paying out. So you want to see people actually go to the source of the issue and really tackle local authorities on this?
Absolutely, claim. And actually complain, find out who the local authority is that's responsible. You can go to findmystreet.com or you can report a pothole and then just find out that information and complain, because if they haven't been maintaining the roads, then they are responsible.
So even if you've made a claim on your own insurance, you should still also go to the local authority.
You shouldn't be claiming on your insurance. You should be going to the
as a first port of call.
Absolutely. You're unlikely to get insurance unless you've got really good cover.
It won't cover for that kind of damage, right? And how successful are people generally when they claim this way?
Usually quite successful. It's very difficult because local authorities do try and fight it quite often. But if you've got that information, do a Freedom of Information request and find out about that road. And that Freedom of Information request should give you information about the surface, how often the potholes have been repaired, if they have been, and also if they've been notified. Because if they've been notified and then not done anything about it, that's really going to help your case.
Mark, are these pothole repairs something of a sticking plaster, though, in so much as there needs to be a much bigger debate about having better roads?
Yeah, exactly. Potholes are only a sign of a failure of a road. And unless this government actually invest, or any successive government invest in our roads, I estimate, based upon the backlog, they need to put in another £3 billion a year, every year, for an annual resurfacing programme. Because if we did that, it would actually save the economy money. There's been some reports some years ago how much it was costing the UK economy. Now with the increased costs of materials and everything else, then it makes economic sense. They really need to understand the impact on people. I think it's the second most complained of things about by motorists. When it comes to local elections, you'll get local councillors and you'll get MPs hear about it. They get complaints. They all want to know about it at election time. After that, it seems to have been sort of ignored.
Well, the Department for Transport would dispute that. They told us they are investing £5 billion between 2020 and 2025 into maintenance, including the Potholes Fund, which will fill millions of potholes every year, and dozens of bridges will be resurfaced across the country. You look sceptical.
I'd love to come back on that one if you let me. They were sitting, as of last year, with a £12 billion backlog in carriageway maintenance between the curb to curb in England and Wales. In 2019, we're sitting with a £7 billion bridge and structures backlog. £1 billion a year, a lot of money to me and you, is not even keeping up with the deterioration of the roads. It's proved it. They come out with glib statements. They come out with all these monies. Most people, we can't imagine that sort of money. But it's a very expensive network. There's 250,000 miles of road in this country. I got a section of road down in Oxford, campaigning with a local newspaper there. It cost £830,000 just to do, just over a mile of road. So, the money they talk about, and they every time it's £5 billion. It's and they don't actually address it. There was a brilliant report done by a cross-party select committee when Lillian Greenwood was the chair that my evidence is involved, called Filling the Gap. It got lip service and the usual answers. All the answers to the problems with our roads is in there. beg any government to actually use that report. There's a lot of good work there.
And there is an argument that all of this affects productivity as well, because, you know, if you've got people who can't drive to where they need to get to, and lorries in particular, then that affects the whole economy. You've been sending in your pictures of problem potholes this morning. Should we just take a look at these? First of all, Gary in Lincoln sent us this. It's an idea of just how bad the issue is in his area. You can see the road
Gary was kind enough in another photo to put a plastic bottle in to give us a bit of scale on that image.
Yeah.
Jane from Hampshire said this is the pothole that caused £360 worth of damage. Oh, just before Christmas as well. That's a stinger.
And Andy Rose sent us this from North Lincolnshire. I mean, again, these pictures will be familiar to so many people. So, Helen, if you're faced with something like that and you're collecting evidence, so we've got those pictures there, but if you were going to put a claim against your local council, what else would you need to add to a picture like that?
Well, that's quite a good idea about putting something to measure and to see how sort of deep it is.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to take the photos, take videos, you know, it may be, because that is all going to help with your evidence, with all, you know, whether
Measure
they've
them?
been
Measure
yeah,
the holes?
absolutely. So you can just take measure and absolutely show what's there, because it's all about evidence. So if it did go to court, the judge is going to see in your favour if you've got all the evidence to say.
And should you be looking for other people who've had issues with that same pothole potentially to strengthen your case? Will that make a difference?
It can do, but what people really need to be doing is report them. If you see the potholes, report them on the Report a Pothole website, on the government website, because the more people that report it means that it's there. They've got to do something about it
and take responsibility if they don't.
And there's more evidence there.
And Helen, the best bit of advice you gave me a while back is don't take a first no for an answer.
On anything.
On anything.
Absolutely, particularly potholes.
Thank you, and thanks to you, Mark, as well, and your encyclopedic knowledge of potholes up and down the UK. Thank you.